Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning has been on the 4th annual Laugh It Up Milwaukee 2015 event. This year, the Jewish Community Center presents Howie Mandel, and the event will benefit the Harry and Rose Family Jewish Community Center and the Hunger Task Force. My next guest is the Executive Director of the Hunger Task Force here in Milwaukee, Miss Sherrie Tussler. How are you, Sherrie?
I'm great.
It is a pleasure to see you,
Thanks
as
for having me
always.
back.
And really, I want you to kind of tell people at home who aren't aware of all the great things that the Hunger Task Force does for the city of Milwaukee. Fill them in.
We've been around since 1974. We're your free and local food bank. We were established here in Milwaukee, and we distribute food absolutely free of charge to a network of charities, food pantries, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, senior subsidized housing, and senior meal sites.
Yeah.
Last year we distributed about 10 million pounds of food, and what we do is make sure that there's a safety net of services for hungry people in Milwaukee.
So a long list of things that you provide to the community, and you really do help make a difference in people's lives every single day. So what's the picture of hunger look like in Milwaukee as we speak?
Well, 1 in 2 people visiting a food pantry or sleeping overnight at a homeless shelter, 1 in 2 people eating at a soup kitchen as a child. Those are children that are younger than 12. And so the face of hunger really is about children in Milwaukee. We do serve about 10,000 seniors through a program called Stock Box that's in the senior subsidized housing and senior meal sites. And then there are working poor families. Lots of people who are earning the minimum wage, working on part-time jobs, who cannot make ends meet and are looking towards an emergency food pantry for the food that they need to be healthy.
Yeah, and so talking about those families that are in that particular situation, they are sometimes forced to make decisions. Do they pay rent? Do they, maybe somebody in the family needs specific medications? They don't really have the opportunity to say they can do that and buy food. So that's where you guys come in to kind of help bridge the gap and make it possible for people to live their everyday lives.
Right, people don't realize it, but oftentimes people rely on that food pantry. They're going to visit it once a month, literally, in order to make ends meet. The one thing that you can be flexible with in your budget is your food buying budget.
Yeah.
So first you'll start sort of scrimping and saving, and then you'll eat less, and sometimes you might even skip meals. When parents are skipping meals in order to feed their children, then the hunger is throughout the household, and it's really challenging. And sure, kids can get a free meal at lunch or breakfast at their school, but it still isn't enough to make it through the month, and food stamps have been a real challenge for families lately.
Yeah, and another way that the Hunger Task Force really helps bridge a gap, because you just mentioned kids being able to get a free meal at school, whether it be breakfast and or lunch, but during those summer months when school's not in session, you know that there are kids out there who are not eating at all. And so you have corporate sponsors who come in and help make a difference to make sure kids do get that lunch or dinner or breakfast, whatever the situation may be.
Absolutely. Our friends at Kohl's and Northwestern Mutual are sort of pitching in to make sure that kids can get not just breakfast, lunch, but also supper at local schools. This last summer we served over 750,000 meals at 135 meal sites throughout Milwaukee County.
That's what it's all about. And so, as you had mentioned, you've been locally funded and locally run for over 40 years now, and that is quite the accomplishment. So what does the whole concept of being local, how is that so important?
It's important to us because we're governed locally, we were established locally, and we're not part of a large sort of national model. There is a food bank called Feeding America. We are not a Feeding America. Hunger Task Force was created by people here in the community to help people in the community, and because we're free and we've been committed to ending hunger, that food is going to be distributed to those food pantries, soup kitchens, and homeless shelters free of charge. And so if you give a can of food at an event or a food drive, that can of food is going to go directly to that pantry, and no one's going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, and you depend upon lots of community support in order to be able to do what you do. So it goes without saying that being involved with the Laugh It Up Milwaukee event that is brought to us by the Jewish Community Center, it really has to really make a difference to have an organization like that choose your organization to say, we want to help make make a difference. So tell us what that means for you.
Well, people don't realize it, but the folks at the JCC actually run their own food pantry, and it's located on Center Street in the heart of Milwaukee, and it serves a lot of low-income people. It isn't a kosher pantry. It's not meant for Jewish people specifically. It is a pantry that serves the community as a demonstration of their faith. And so we've been walking alongside the JCC for more than 35 years. We've been partners, and we've been supplying their food pantry. So this is a natural thing for us to do together. And having Howie Mandel come to town, having this huge show is really exciting for us, and we're looking forward to sort of celebrating together.
Yes, and you did just mention you distribute food to a network of food pantries and homeless shelters and soup kitchens, all free of charge. So it's important for people at home to realize that when they see your face, usually it's you as that spokesperson who's saying, this is what we need, and we need to answer that call, because you are painting the picture of why it's so important for us all to work together.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter if you're in Cudahy or as far north as Menominee Falls, people are going to need food, and that food pantry network should be able to supply a stable, healthy, delicious amount of food for people. We want to make sure that people are getting food that's dignified, that's not damaged or aging or even expired. And so we sort through all of that food, and then we distribute it absolutely free of charge to that entire network to make sure that they have the foods that they need to serve the same number of people they served in a prior month. And that way, it wouldn't matter who you were or where you were, you're going to get that food that you need in a neighborhood where you live, and it's going to respect your diet, your religion, and your culture.
Okay. And you just recently wrapped up your Food for Families campaign, and that wrapped up January 2nd. So I'm eager to hear the outcome of that campaign.
We're still out picking up barrels in grocery stores or corporations, and so if your barrel's still out there, we're coming, don't worry.
Just a little busy.
But food giving's been up this year. Funding's been down, but food giving has been up, and that means that the power of the individual still does make a difference. Some people say, oh, I could give one can of food, and how am I going to make a difference for hunger? Think about that one can of food being a can of infant formula, and think about a mom who's not able to nurse, and think about the fact that you just helped her feed her baby, and then think about giving.
That's a great way to look at things. And you are big on advocacy. The Hunger Task Force actually acts and speaks for those who cannot speak for themselves. In many instances, there's maybe legislation that's passed, and people really don't know how they're going to deal with the outcome of that legislation. But if you feel like you need to speak up on that or anything else along those lines, that's what you do.
Hunger Task Force was again established locally, and we were a group of advocates. We were the Concerned Citizens for School Breakfast, and so there was a public policy that was preventing people from getting breakfast in the schools, kids, and we advocated for 2 years with the Milwaukee Public Schools in order to make that happen. Later, we worked on the food stamp program, and so we've always worked on the anti-hunger programs that exist already. We want to see that they're properly administered in Milwaukee. We want to see that they're accessible. We want to make sure that they make sense for people, because those federal resources are there and those programs are there, and it makes sense for the people of Milwaukee to get access to them.
Yeah, and so some of the programs that you've worked to establish, you talked about the school breakfast programs and all those things, but you also did the Women's Infant and Children program, and that's so very important when you talk about women having newborn babies and being able to give them the correct food for them to grow healthy and strong.
Yeah, imagine a world where the formula that is supplied isn't enough, where you can't get access to formula, and people are watering down milk or giving the infants juice or something like that. And then we wonder about the ill effects of those children as they're growing up. And so the WIC program is a great program. It's soon enough it's going to be going to an electronic benefits card, just like the food stamp program.
Okay.
So we're pretty excited about that. No more coupons and sort of sorting through stuff at the store. Just zip it through the checkout line.
Fast and easy.
Yeah, and dignified. More importantly, dignified.
Yeah, I like that. And let's talk about some of those corporate sponsors, because you clearly had talked about Kohl's and other companies that help out with giving school lunches and things of that nature. Dinners and lunches outside of the school year, I should say. But you also have corporations like Johnson Controls, Harley Davidson, and you just had this thing with the Packers. Every touchdown was a cha-ching moment for the Hunger Task Force.
Go Pack Go. We love the Packers. Every time the Packers score a touchdown, Hunger Task Force gets $1,000. If we go to the playoffs, we get $2,000.
Okay.
If we go to the Super Bowl, we get $10,000.
Fingers crossed.
That's a lot of money. And so that one's sponsored not just in cooperation with the Green Bay Packers, but Sargento, which is the official cheese of Lambeau Field.
Aha.
And so Sargento was here recently and announced that we were getting $52,000, but you know, as the touchdowns roll in, we'll continue to get more money, and the challenge is there. Their total giving so far is over $1 million to the Hunger Task Force. $1 million from a family-owned company in Plymouth, Wisconsin, coming to Milwaukee.
That's what it's all about. And to see corporations step up and say we care about the community that we serve speaks volumes. So want to quickly mention the farm that's out there in Franklin.
Yeah.
You've got people that are constantly at work there throughout the year. So what's going on at the farm?
Farming is year-round work, to say that, you know, so even though it's cold outside, yes, we're actually working to restore an oak savanna, and the time that you go out into the oak savanna is when the ground is frozen.
Aha.
So if people want to volunteer, they can still volunteer at the farm. But coming up in the spring, lots and lots of people can come out. We'll be planting our transplants. We'll be seeding, and eventually we'll be weeding, but then in the fall we harvest. And the farm is supported by the Harley-Davidson Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
They gave a substantial leadership gift, and their employees volunteer out there regularly. If people would like to be part of the farm, help us grow food for local families and make sure that people are getting healthy and nutritious foods, just give us a ring.
All right, and this is a great time to give us your phone number.
Sure, it's 414-777-0483.
And there's also great information on your website as well.
Yes, it's at hungertaskforce.org.
Okay, simple as that. And before we wrap up, Sherrie, there's something important that's going to be taking place, I'm thinking around April, with the food stamp program. So what exactly should people be aware of?
They should be aware that if they are an able-bodied working adult between the ages of 18 and 49, they will need to work for their food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the law of the land. It's always been a federal law. Wisconsin had a waiver. Our governor made the decision that we didn't need that waiver anymore because the economy was improving. And so people will be told that they need to register for work and that they have to work a minimum of 80 hours in a month in order to receive their food stamp benefit. Those jobs may not pay. It may be just training. But if they don't work, they will lose their food stamps.
Wow. So that is definitely, and you don't hear a whole lot of talk about this. It's almost, maybe the letters are going out to those individuals who will be affected, but I haven't heard a whole lot of talk about the impact that this could very well have.
It has a huge economic impact.
Yeah.
It doesn't just affect the individual. The individual who is spending those food stamps, if they lose those food stamps, is not only going to have to visit a charity, but may not be able to get food stamps for a period of 3 months to a year, depending upon their circumstances. And so we're encouraging people to be aware. They are enrolling for work when they sign up for food stamps. It's in the fine print. So they're not going to get a letter.
Oh. So that's why you are here today, ultimately to make people aware of the issues that we face right here in our city. So I thank you for that. And if there's someone out there who is in need of a stock box, maybe they know of an elderly person who needs some food and maybe can't get out on their own to get that, they can just contact the Hunger Task Force to find out more.
They can and they should. We have stock boxes available for people, and you can serve as a proxy for a senior in your life.
Okay, anything else you want to share with us about the great things that you're doing at the Hunger Task Force?
We're just so very excited to be part of Laugh It Up, and we want to thank the JCC for that.
Yes.
And thanks for bringing us on board.
And once again, we do want to invite everyone to the Laugh It Up Milwaukee event happening January 31st at the Riverside Theater. The Hunger Task Force will benefit from this year's event. Thank you so much, Sherrie, for stopping by. It's always a pleasure. And Sherrie Tussler, again, is the Executive Director of the Hunger Task Force, who believes that every person has a right to adequate food obtained with dignity as they work each day to achieve a hunger-free community tomorrow. And that is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues, Milwaukee. Have a great day and a happy new year.